The phone call that altered everything. It was an ordinary Tuesday, the kind where minutes seemed to stretch like a snail on an uphill slope. In my office, I was nursing lukewarm coffee with a flavor reminiscent of burnt cardboard, while fixated on a spreadsheet I had scrutinized thrice. The ceiling fan's hum echoed lazily, resembling a persistent fly. My inbox flashed, filled with unopened messages I was hesitant to confront. Suddenly, my phone vibrated on the desk, and a familiar name appeared. Malik, my brother, who seldom called just for chit-chat, he resided in Hawaii managing one of those lavish resorts that attract tourists from far and wide. Our conversations were few and far between, usually confined to birthday greetings or holiday check-ins. An unexpected call from him during work hours, that was unusual. I answered, already bracing for an uncommon event. "Hey, kiddo," he greeted in his usual laid-back tone. "What's new, Malik?" I relaxed in my chair, anticipating. A brief pause ensued, followed by his query, "Could I ask a rapid question? Where's your spouse?" I momentarily squinted. "She's on a work journey," I replied, taking my time. "In New York. She departed Sunday." "For what reason?" Another, more extended pause ensued. A hint of seriousness replaced his casual tone. "Why do you inquire?" I responded, tightening my voice. "I'm currently standing in the hotel lobby," he disclosed, swearing by his mother's good name. "And I assure you, your spouse is right in front of me. She had just checked in with another man." The room became quiet. I thought I misunderstood him. "What?" he repeated, lowering his voice. "She's here, barefoot in a sundress, with a man who seems destined for a cologne advertisement. And she just booked the honeymoon suite using your ATM card." I didn't take a breath for a moment. My hand stopped moving on the mouse. The coffee tasted gritty in my mouth. The screen before me no longer made sense. My ears rang. My jaw tightened. But somehow I managed to keep my voice even. "Is that really her?" he affirmed. I offered a wave, which she reciprocated. Another lull ensued. He massaged his temple, trying to dispel the sudden headache that had surfaced at the back of his eyes. "All right," I murmured. "Don't engage in conversation with her. Keep it secret, I told you." "Understood," Malik responded. "What needs to be done?" Pausing, my heart raced, but my thoughts turned frosty. I rose from my desk and approached the window, watching the wind stir the trees outside. My mind was a tempest. Brielle, my wife of 6 years. We met at a work seminar when we were still obscure. She was electrifying, sharp, self-assured, the type who didn't wait for doors to open but kicked them down. We connected immediately. I covered her final semester of grad school when her loan was rejected, nurtured her while she built her startup from scratch, celebrated her successes as if they were my own, and now she was far away, embracing another man on a beach, beaming as if none of it mattered. I concluded the call with Malik following some more instructions, and I sank into my chair. I logged into our banking app. The transaction history glared back at me like an accusation: $850 for an ocean view room, $170 for a champagne brunch, $265 for a luxury couples massage, $320 for a catamaran sunset cruise, $2,430 in total stolen joy. Each charge felt like a blow to the chest, paid with my card. For the past few months, I'd sensed something was amiss. We had been canceling date nights, always tired, overburdened by work. She'd evade me when I tried to connect, using vague pretexts. I attributed it to stress. I didn't probe deeper. I granted her space. Unbeknownst to me, I was giving her the liberty to be unfaithful. I desired to shout, but I held back. I wanted to shatter something in the room, but I restrained myself. Instead, I just sat there, silent, stunned, absorbing the shock. In that instant, I understood something menacing. I wouldn't shout or weep. Instead, I'd retaliate. I wouldn't charge to Hawaii seeking explanations. I wouldn't burst into her hotel suite to assault the man. That was predictable. She'd be ready for it. But me, I'd remain composed, think, strategize. By the time she understood the situation, she wouldn't know what had struck her. I dialed Malik once more, instructing him to continue observing, provide updates, and send images if feasible without being detected. He consented. He enjoyed such intrigue, and for a change, we were working together. Then I contacted my assistant, informing him that I wouldn't be at the office for the remainder of the week. I closed my laptop. I filled a glass with whiskey, sat on the couch, and fixed my gaze upon our wedding photo hanging above the fireplace. I recalled her smile that day, her vows, the quaver in her voice when she pledged forever. I should have foreseen. Some claim forever, but they truly mean till a new attraction captivates them. I tapped the glass with my teeth, thinking she underestimated me, believing I'd never discover her deceit, but she overlooked my identity. She overlooked that I observe, perceive patterns, construct my life on order and accuracy. She played a reckless game in paradise, and now, I was preparing to demonstrate that betrayal bears consequences, and paradise would become the final place she'd ever forget. The paradise unveiled. It's ironic how treachery doesn't strike all at once. Instead, it seeps in gradually like cold water creeping under a door, slowly saturating everything before one realizes they stand waist deep in floodwaters. That night, I remained in my living room with the lights off, allowing the revelation to permeate me. The only sounds were the clinking of ice against glass and the rhythmic creaking of the ceiling fan overhead. I scrutinized the bank statements once more, perusing the expenditures as if they were a crime scene summary. Spa package, sunset cruise, room service sufficient for a football team, my name adorning every invoice. My funds seemed to be financing their escapade. She had exploited what we had constructed as a means of financing her transient romance. However, I vowed not to act impulsively just yet. Instead, I dialed Malik again and inquired about him, pouring another drink as I did so. He chuckled, not out of mirth, but due to the absurdity. Tall, handsome, a common type. One could picture him wearing skinny jeans and loafers on a beach, as if he's repelled by sand. Earlier she had kissed him on the cheek, held his hand. They appeared too familiar to be merely colleagues. I closed my eyes. He wasn't mistaken. I already suspected that it wasn't purely business matters. Her emails had grown cryptic of late. No more specific return times or 3 o'clock meetings. Only one-word responses or eerie silence filled their place. I reassured myself she was under pressure, needing solitude. I handed her that item, and she traveled with it all the way to Hawaii. "Thanks, dude," I responded. "Watch over her, I told you. Make sure she doesn't figure out what you said." "Already taken care of," Malik responded. "She booked the trip under your complete name, by the way. No embarrassment at all. That was expected, right?" After our call ended, I remained silent for a while. I pondered everything: her habit of staying up late when I worked, her chuckles at my lousy jokes. Somewhere along the line, those laughs ceased, and I wasn't sure when it happened or even chose to ignore it. The thought of confronting her then consumed me like acid in my chest. I envisioned myself rushing to their suite in Hawaii, surprising them, catching them in the act. But then I imagined her response. She would likely gasp, cry, plead, deny, maybe even manipulate the story and claim I invaded her privacy, make it a tale of mistrust. No, I needed her exposed. Not only me, but everyone. This meant no shouting, no tossing objects, no theatrics. Only facts. I retrieved our joint bank folder. Each transaction stood out like a breadcrumb trail. I created a new spreadsheet as I required this to be systematic. Cold, precise. I categorized each entry by date, location, description, and amount. It was simple to discern what was hers. She preferred extravagant small items. Dinners under candlelight, imported wines, spa treatments with names that sounded like they were from sci-fi movies. The most disturbing part: all these expenses were billed on my side of the account. I felt like a spirit observing my life from afar. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stayed at the kitchen island, illuminated only by the fridge light, formulating a plan. I wouldn't let her leave Hawaii with a tan and a grin. She would arrive with betrayal and be met with a legal tempest. The following morning, I messaged Malik. "Can you delay her tomorrow morning? Tell her she's been upgraded or some VIP beach experience. Buy some time for me," he replied moments later. "No problem. I'll take care of that. Do you have a plan cooking? Yes, I messaged back. I'm finally breaking my silence. Then I reached out to someone I hadn't spoken to in years, Joan. We went to college together, and she was capable of tricking a vending machine for free snacks for a week. Now, she's a cybersecurity consultant for a law firm while freelancing on the side. When I explained my situation, she remained unfazed. I'll provide you with a tracker linked to a real-time transaction log, she said. Grant me access to our shared account, and I'll compile all data in a private document. Can you correlate it with GPS coordinates? I asked. She chuckled. You want location, timing, and background details? You got it. It should be ready by tonight. Thanks, Joan. Your efforts will be compensated, I said. Your thanks are enough compensation, she replied. I appreciate a good revenge narrative. Upon hanging up, I smiled for the first time in hours because now it wasn't only about the heartbreak. Texting Malik once more, I asked for a picture, only one. An hour passed and a snapshot arrived, depicting them by the beach bar. She was clutching a cocktail with a pink umbrella, her hair loose, sunglasses atop her head, and casually touching his chest. Upon zooming in, I found no traces of guilt or shame, only smiles. At that moment, something within me clicked into place. The man I used to be trusting, loyal, perhaps too forgiving had vanished. In his stead stood a calculating, focused individual. I stored the photo under Paradise Files in my laptop and began amassing her recent emails and messages. She'd carelessly sent her work travel confirmation to his email and copied herself. I retrieved every digital receipt, itinerary, and shred of evidence. Then I consulted a lawyer, not just any attorney, but one licensed in Hawaii. Tony, my civil lawyer known for taking down high-profile individuals, was given to me by Malik. Shrewd as a razor, she requires little more than a file and an arched brow to dismantle her opponents. I sent her my evidence via email, and within half an hour, we were on a Zoom call. It's not just divorce I seek, but a financial claim against her for misuse of funds. Tony raised an eyebrow, indicating she was taking this seriously. I assured her I meant business. She instructed me to send all details, promising to draft the claim. Before I could answer her question about my arrival date, I confessed I hadn't booked a flight yet. Smiling, she advised me to act swiftly as paradise rarely remains silent for long. Brielle believed she was living her dream life. However, she had no idea that her paradise would soon be transformed into a courtroom. My intentions were not just to expose her, but to dismantle her fantasy publicly, legally, and meticulously. My brother stood by me as an ally in this endeavor, eager to witness the spectacle unfold. As children, Malik and I weren't particularly close friends. We were simply two boys sharing the same roof, with distinct personalities and separate destinies. He was drawn to beaches and breezes, whereas I found solace in books and balance sheets. While I constructed a tranquil existence on the mainland, he ventured to Hawaii and transformed a dilapidated beachfront property into a renowned luxury resort. We didn't quarrel, but we weren't close either, until now. Betrayal has an unusual power of reshuffling allegiances. It was 2 days after Malik contacted me. I sat in my car parked at the edge of a cliffside viewpoint, just beyond the city, a spot where one goes to ponder or perhaps yell when alone. The ocean was distant, cold, unyielding, and my phone glowed warmly in my hand. "All right," Malik said from the other end. "Here's what I found." He had taken on the role of an investigator for me, a commitment usually reserved for those closely bonded by blood. He informed her, "All details of your reservation are in your name." She had booked the honeymoon suite for 6 nights, confirmed via a joint bank card, inclusive of all services. Upon arrival, you'll receive champagne and turn down service with an ocean view. I'm sending the confirmation documents to your inbox. Additionally, I've reviewed security footage from discrete angles, ensuring no invasion of privacy, yet revealing that they are more than just colleagues. "You're certain about this?" she inquired, her jaw tense. "Can I trust you?" He replied simply, "Trust me." The footage shows them kissing by the pool bar and even dancing together at the luau the previous night. A knot formed in my stomach. Has she ever mentioned anything to you regarding this? I asked, curious if she attempted to deceive him. She merely smiled as if nothing was amiss when he greeted her. She claimed she was taking a break from work stress and didn't react upon his greeting. As for him, his name is Levy. What do we know about him? Malik sighed through the speaker. I requested several colleagues to conduct an investigation. It was discovered that he is a marketing manager in a California-based company, around his mid-30s, fitness enthusiast, and has a presumptuous attitude towards women. I mumbled perfect. The epitome of stereotypes. Do you want me to delve further? I responded. No, as it happens, someone else is handling that aspect. You see, it was me. She had previously shared with me a Google spreadsheet, meticulously organized and time-stamped, detailing every purchase Brielle made using our joint account since she moved here. The GPS coordinates of the stores and restaurants she visited were also included, making it seem like a horrifying travel guide. Each entry bore my name. My next course of action was to constrict the circle. I required more than emotional distress. I needed legal grounds, so I contacted Joan again. Hi, she replied promptly on the second ring. Your sheet's been updated. You should check out row 35. I opened it. Description: boutique jewelry set. Cost: $860. Remark: gift wrapped. I signed up my own future. My handwriting was verified as belonging to Brielle. My grip tightened around my phone. She used my card to purchase a present for him. Joan didn't respond. She didn't need to. Keep monitoring, I instructed. I want each dollar accounted for. I want a complete timeline. I want to know what they interacted with, where they stayed, what they wore. You're becoming risky, she remarked, half amused, half admiring. No, I countered. I'm becoming strategic. After the call ended, I reached out to Tony, the civil lawyer Malik had suggested. She was shrewd, swift, and unfazed by the magnitude of the situation. I've gone through the documents you sent, she stated during our second conversation. I can construct a case here with ease. Fraudulent usage of shared funds, emotional distress, deception. If you wish to file a lawsuit or serve her papers while she's still abroad, I can prepare the necessary paperwork within 48 hours. Proceed. However, be cautious, she warned carefully. This could become public knowledge. That night, Malik sent me video clips. The initial shot played soft music with the resort's live band in the backdrop. Brielle and Levy were dancing under string lights, him holding her waist. She whispered something into his ear, causing him to laugh before they shared a kiss on the dance floor, the same floor where I once danced with her during Malik's retreat 3 years ago, when she still held my hand publicly and looked at me like I mattered. I closed the video, not from pain, but from knowing my decision was made. I was no longer going to be taken by surprise. This wasn't about heartache anymore, it was business. She had transformed our marriage into a deal. So I would handle the aftermath as if it were a faulty agreement. When I phoned Malik to check in again, he asked if there was anything else I needed. I require access to her suite, I responded. Not to break in. I just need information. He hesitated before responding. The situation is ambiguous as she used my name and my card without explicit permission. I have the right to understand what transpires under my account. He mentioned casually, I might have a person, referring to him as Kai, who has been with me for 6 years, known for discretion and loyalty. I trust him, send him in quietly, only asking him to observe without taking anything. I agreed. You got it. As the plan unfolded, I began compiling a comprehensive document christened Operation Island Exit. It contained bank statements, email screenshots, timeline of deceit, photos and videos from Malik, spreadsheet from Joan, and draft legal complaint from Tony, all neatly organized in an encrypted drives folder. The evidence was conclusive. The betrayal was established beyond doubt. However, I hadn't contacted her yet. She remains unaware of the impending outcome. That silence, it is my preferred aspect. There's a certain power in letting someone venture further into the inferno, thinking they bask in sunlight. They're sipping champagne, posting beach photos, grinning in mirrors, but unbeknownst to them, The ground beneath them is beginning to fracture. By the week's end, it wouldn't be a beach under her feet. Instead, it would be a courtroom. The scene is set. There's an odd sense of fulfillment watching someone who lies grin while stepping into a trap. In this instance, the trap was adorned with ocean vistas and free mimosas. I touched down in Honolulu around midday on a Friday, exiting the plane with a solitary carry-on, dark shades, and a name not my own. I reserved my hotel under an alias, Mr. Hayes, a name I'd previously used for an ancient fantasy football league. It's ironic now, this identity, unlike my marriage, remained whole. I didn't lodge at Malik's resort. That would have been reckless. Instead, I checked into a boutique hotel a few blocks away, one of those eco-luxury establishments where nobody pries as long as you generously tip and appear exhausted. I kept to myself, no loud chats, no public displays. Observation, coordination, and silence were my tasks. In the evening, I encountered Malik at a quaint cafe close to the marina, both of us blending in with the vacationers. I remained in my travel attire, whereas he donned flip-flops and a linen shirt. He informed me, sipping his beverage, that she had reserved a kayak tour for 2 tomorrow and a spa session this afternoon with him. I queried about this, to which he merely nodded. The credit card was being used as if it were printing money. She appeared oblivious. She was serene. The following day, Malik organized a discreet meeting with Tony Rivera, a civil attorney whose office boasted a view of Diamond Head's Edge. I prepared myself for the encounter ahead. She greeted me with a firm handshake, radiating an air of seldom lost confidence. "I've examined the paperwork," she stated, pointing to the bulky file I had given her. "You've built a strong case involving financial misconduct, fraudulent joint fund usage, and emotional distress. However, it's crucial that we act strategically. If you prefer a more forceful approach, let's wait until she's in a vulnerable position. Maintain the illusion of perfection before delivering the blow." I nodded, seeking to instill a sense of invincibility before reminding her of her vulnerability. Tony smirked. "Just the kind of client I like." Later that day, I went back to my hotel and perused the fresh updates from Joan. The spreadsheet had expanded. More dinners, jewelry, a private snorkeling trip, and an entry labeled Premium Lovers Cove picnic basket. That one hurt, not due to the expense, but because we'd enjoyed that same picnic 2 years ago. It was her idea back then. Now it seemed like repackaged romance for someone else. I closed my laptop and phoned Malik. "It's time for the next move," I stated. "Should we switch cards?" he questioned. "Yes. Can Kai manage it?" Kai, being Malik's trusted confidant, was a reliable and steadfast individual who could keep secrets to his grave. Malik once shared that Kai had resolved a power outage during a hurricane using duct tape and a screwdriver. "I'll update him tonight," Malik responded. "We'll execute it tomorrow morning when she arrives for breakfast. Inform him to be quick, precise, and error-free." The plan was straightforward. Malik would fabricate a billing issue at the reception that necessitated Brielle's presence, perhaps a hold problem on her room. While she was down arguing, Kai would slip into the suite, exchange her authentic ATM card with an identical decoy, and leave the rest untouched. When she attempted to use it later that day, it wouldn't function. Her seemingly perfect vacation would gradually disintegrate, each attempt a reminder of slipping control. By the time dawn broke, everything was in motion. Malik contacted me around 10 a.m. He murmured, "She's at the desk now," flashing a false smile to my colleagues. "Is Kai present?" "Already arrived and departed." As elusive as a ghost, I smirked. "Excellent." Later in the day, Joan texted me. "No transaction on the genuine card since 10:13 m. Seems like the ruse is working at full capacity." That was when I truly sensed a change, a balance shifting. I envisioned her standing at a retail store's counter, sunshades in one hand, lips curling with displeasure as the cashier shook their head. Card refused. Try again. Refused. Bafflement. Humiliation. Agitation. Malik verified it. "They went to the jewelry store in Waikiki," he said. "She attempted to purchase a gold chain. Denied. Attempted again. Nothing. Left, I looked perplexed. She looked furious. Now, they're back at the resort. She's on the phone with someone, likely the bank, or perhaps you. I laughed. Let her call. I didn't respond naturally. I wasn't prepared yet. She needed to dwell in it more. But I wasn't done. I penned a brief note on white paper and enclosed it within an envelope, subsequently adding one crisp screenshot depicting her kissing Levy on the beach inside. The message reads simply, "Smile, your vacation is over." I passed this to Malik in the lobby that night, instructing him to deliver it the following morning, personally. He should say it was from a private guest and then depart. He inspected the envelope, responding, "She's going to be upset." That's the idea. That evening, I retreated to my tranquil hotel room. Standing by the window overlooking the crashing ocean, I reflected on the man I once was, who was sightless, tired, and attempting to mend something that was already shattered. Now, I no longer strove for repair, but merely ensured that the ruins bore my mark. The following morning, Malik contacted me with a hint of amusement in his tone. He reported that she had opened it in the breakfast lounge. She turned ashen, seeming as if someone had removed her chair unexpectedly. Levy inquired about the cause, to which she replied it was insignificant. Angrily, she departed for her room. I smiled, gazing at the sun's ascension outside my window. "Excellent," Malik commented. "She has already exploded." I responded coolly. "She remains unaware of this fact." I terminated the conversation, completed my coffee, and secured my suitcase. It was past time to return home. Not because the task was done, but because the main event was about to unfold, and she was oblivious that the recording had started. The change in cards. There's a particular stillness that follows a masterful setup. It's not empty, it's laden, like the air before a storm bursts, or the quiet that descends in a courtroom before the judgment is announced. That was the silence I experienced the following morning after Malik handed over the envelope. A profound, expectant kind of silence. I didn't hasten it. I allowed the time to pass. At precisely 11:03 am, the first call arrived. Brielle. Her name illuminated my screen, but I remained motionless. I let it ring before silencing my phone and pushing it flat on the countertop. My hands remained still, my breath shallow. For days, I had envisioned this moment, the unraveling, yet the genuine thrill of watching her world crumble beneath her feet surpassed all expectations. Over the following 2 hours, she called me 6 times. I chose not to answer. Meanwhile, Joan supplied me with live updates from the tracking device, or more accurately, the absence of them. Denied again, she informed me at 12:12 p.m., this time at a beachside cafe. She attempted using it thrice. The beauty of retribution executed skillfully is its silence. It doesn't shatter with loud noises or loud accusations. Instead, it whispers truth into the spaces where falsehoods once thrived. This card swap served that purpose, not vengeance in the traditional sense, but disclosure. One swipe at a time. Mid-afternoon, Malik messaged me. She asked everyone at the front desk why her card wasn't functioning. She believes it's an oversight at the hotel. Let her believe so. I responded. I envisioned her standing there, in that pricey sundress, attempting to maintain a smile as bewilderment spread across her face. Most likely, Levy was nearby, with his arms folded, pondering what she was concealing. I wondered if he realized the room they were occupying was booked under my name. On each receipt she signed, you could see that she had switched to a last name she claimed she no longer took pride in. However, the most intriguing part was yet to unfold. I had prepared another envelope, this one bulkier and denser. Within it, I placed evidence, a bank statement with every relevant line emphasized, correlating to their trip, a spreadsheet compiled by Joan, categorized by date, location, and expense, the resort's room booking confirmation, bearing my full name, a draft of the divorce petition from Tony, and finally, a clearly labeled USB drive. The contents of that USB, it contained the video recordings Malik had amassed. Their slow dances, hand-holding, laughter under tiki lights, kiss by the bar. Time-stamped and high-resolution data weren't just proof, they were a narrative. A chronicle of treachery cloaked in facts. It was about to be delivered straight into her hands. I made one final call to Malik that evening, querying his certainty. She went on a vacation using my funds, I informed him. She can handle an early wake-up call. The following morning, Malik found her in the hotel lobby as usual. "Mrs. Thorne," he said. Later, he told me she didn't correct him. She was so accustomed to feigning, she forgot to drop the act. "This was left for you by a guest," he added, handing her the envelope. She accepted it without hesitation. 20 minutes later, my phone vibrated again. An unknown number this time. I didn't respond. Then Malik called. She opened it in the suite, he said. I couldn't see her, but one of the cleaning staff mentioned she threw something against the wall. After that, she began shouting, "Levy." He exited the room 10 minutes later. Appeared as if struck, he didn't pursue her, instead shutting the door behind him. He ventured towards the pool bar solo. Ordered tequila at an unusual hour, a sight that held poetic resonance. I could envision him there in his beach shirt, gazing out at the sea, suddenly comprehending he was merely a prop in another's chaotic play. All she had promised, freedom, love, excitement, were constructed on ill-gotten funds and assumed identities. In the evening, Tony phoned. "She's been served legally," she stated. Divorce petition, financial claim, along with all substantiating proof. "We have records of delivery. She knows she's been found out. The lawsuit, filed, will take action once she returns to the mainland. Yet, based on the footage and your banking transactions, the case appears strong." I thanked her and ended the call. That night, I didn't rejoice or raise a glass in triumph or boast to friends. I found myself on my hotel room balcony, gazing at the incoming tide while the soothing sound of waves hitting sand filled the air. Reflections upon our 6-year marriage and all the silent sacrifices ensued. Memories flooded back late nights finishing her work decks, her resting her head on my shoulder when she couldn't sleep, and those little moments that craft a life together. Regrettably, one by one, these precious memories were shattered for a man who couldn't even pay his own drink bills. From below, in another hotel suite, she was frantically pacing, worried and dialing banks, lawyers, anyone willing to listen. However, the reality was stark. No one could save her now, as she had betrayed the only person who would have been unwaveringly supportive. She underestimated my kindness for weakness, and when she turned our marriage into a game, she neglected something vital. I never lose when I understand the rules, and indeed, it was me penning them all along. By dawn, she had vacated the premises. Malik contacted me. She'd left in a hurry. I didn't converse with anyone. "Levy is absent too." "Fine with me," I responded. That afternoon, I embarked on my return journey without first-class privileges or upgrades. Luxury wasn't necessary. I had tranquility instead. Something more precious than anything money can purchase. By the window, I watched the clouds change while feeling weightless for months. Ahead lay battles, court hearings, settlements, and property division. But the most challenging part was behind me. She now grasped the truth, tasted powerlessness, and would forever acknowledge that the man she deceived wasn't the fool she believed him to be. Instead, he held the last move. The urgent call arrived at 5:41 am, just hours after I had returned home, leaving my luggage by the door and rushing straight to the shower without turning on any light. I needed to wash off Hawaii, rid myself of the stench of betrayal, the lingering aroma of ocean wind and deceit. Before unpacking, I hadn't even bothered. The suitcase remained unopened beside the bedroom wall, while my phone stirred on the nightstand, emitting life in silence. The screen illuminated, displaying Brielle's name. I let it ring repeatedly, 9 times within barely 20 minutes before answering. There was no initial response from me. Instead, the heaviness of the silence traveled through the line towards her. "Hello," she whispered, her voice small. I chose to stay silent. "Where are you?" she asked, sounding as if sleep had eluded her. Finally breaking my silence, I spoke calmly, "I'm back home." Her end fell quiet for a moment. I heard background noise, possibly doors closing or footsteps, suggesting she might be pacing. You're home," she repeated. "Why?" "What's going on?" she inquired, trying to make sense of it all. but nothing she had anticipated could have fit the scenario unfolding before her. "Why won't my card work?" she asked urgently. "It got declined at every store yesterday." After contacting the bank, they informed me there was a freeze on the card. Were you hiding something?" I asked, repeating slowly. "That's ironic." She started to speak hurriedly. "This entire situation," she began, "isn't as it appears." I understood the impression, but it isn't true. "Don't," I interrupted. She fell silent. From the window of our house, I looked out on the neighborhood starting to wake up. Sprinklers clicked on in yards. Joggers went by with earbuds inserted, oblivious to the fact that our marriage was being examined piecemeal over this call. "You told me you were in New York," I stated simply. "You packed a suitcase and gave me a farewell kiss, saying you had a client appointment uptown." "That's correct." She lied. "You weren't," I said. "Instead, you were at my brother's resort in Hawaii with another man." I heard her take a sharp breath. "And you used my credit card," I went on, keeping my voice steady and calm. "Every drink, every massage, every dinner, every room service bill, you charged it to me. You made reservations in my name." "Laying in bed with another man in a room you had paid for," she protested, stammering over her words. "Wait," she said, "it's not what you think." "Stop lying, Brielle," you replied, your voice tinged with sadness. "I didn't intend to hurt you." She defended herself sharply, the desperation evident in her cracked voice. "It was a mistake. It just, it happened," she said. "You organized the trip. The tickets were booked. You forwarded the itinerary to him. You used our funds for this. That's not a mistake, Brielle. That's a choice. You left me hanging with that truth." She remained silent. "You don't comprehend," she eventually murmured. "I've been feeling lost, alone. You've been preoccupied with work." "No," you retorted sharply. "Don't try to blame my job. Don't use loneliness as an excuse for betrayal. You could have talked to me about your feelings. You could have told me if something was wrong. Instead, you packed a bag, smiled at me, and flew off to paradise with someone else. There was no defense. She knew it. Her voice broke, and she apologized. It wasn't my intention for things to escalate this much. Matters became intricate, and I was baffled. You weren't puzzled when you reserved an extravagant room or bought a necklace using my card." She gasped in shock. "How do you know that?" I responded. "I know everything, every transaction, every location, every recording, every deceit." Now she was utterly silent. "Did you truly believe you'd escape unnoticed?" I questioned. "Were you under the impression I'd remain here while you emptied our account and embarked on a trip with someone else?" She stumbled over her words. "I needed something different. I didn't intend to cause you pain. I swear by it. I still have feelings for you." I nearly chuckled. "No, Brielle," I said. "You loved what I provided, the security, the funds, the reputation. You cherished the me who wasn't aware of your actions." She wept then, quietly. I remained silent, offering no interruptions or comfort. "I don't know what to do now," she sobbed. I made a mistake. By 9 a.m., you will receive a package." I said calmly. "What? In your suite?" "Due to the hotel manager, open it. Place all contents within. Following that, gather your belongings and depart. Your journey home will be solitary." She sighed audibly. "What's inside?" I replied. "Truth, something you've evaded." "I can resolve this," she implored. "Please, I realize my actions hurt you. However, I am willing to do anything to make amends. Just tell me how." "Impossible," I said. "This isn't about injury anymore. It's about the person you chose to be when you believed I wasn't observing." "But I didn't intend to grow fond of him," she admitted softly. And there it was, the truth. I remained unmoved. "Brielle," I said slowly, "you selected him. You arranged the travel. You packed the luggage. You slept together and used my card for your secret affair. That's not a mere occurrence. That requires effort. That signifies intention, quietness." And then, in the smallest voice I had ever heard from her, she whispered, "I am afraid. You should be too." The line remained silent for an extended period. I could hear her breathing, perhaps hoping I would relent. Perhaps she expected me to suggest, "Return home, let's sort things out." Yet, I had already sorted matters myself. She no longer held a role in those solutions. "I must depart," I declared. "Hold on." But I disconnected. Silence lingered within the house for some time afterwards. The walls seemed broader, the atmosphere more transparent. It was as if the house too had been retaining its breath, only to now release it. I descended to the lower level, prepared a fresh cup of coffee, and carried it out onto the porch. The sky was transitioning into gold. Birds twittered in the foliage. For the first time in a while, I felt at peace. No more speculation. No more questioning. Just facts. I didn't need to shout or rage to triumph. All that was necessary was to cease feigning she was something she never intended to be. And soon, upon opening that package, she would recognize the cost of her pretending. The bill of consequences. The sun ascended in Honolulu as it often did, tranquil and golden, promising. But for Brielle, this morning would deviate. She envisioned her awakening in a lavish room, the sea wind seeping through the drapes and the distant murmur of waves. For a brief instant, perhaps she even erased all memories. Perhaps she reached for Levy. Maybe she still clung to the belief that this was merely a nightmarish illusion. Yet dreams lack tangible proof. At precisely 9 a.m., Malik honored our pact. He ascended to the suite, tapped twice, and presented her with another envelope, thicker than the preceding one. He spoke not a word, only offered a courteous smile before departing. Within that envelope lay the conclusion of everything she believed she could command. The divorce petition was inscribed on pristine white paper with bold typography and Tony's law firm emblem at the summit. It outlined every infraction of trust, every financial exploitation, every legal basis I had for dissolving the union. No embellishments, just facts. In addition, I had obtained a formal order restricting her access to shared accounts, investments, and property deeds. Tony's team had seized everything: the house, cars, business assets. Brielle now had no control over anything we had accumulated together. Also enclosed was an itemized breakdown, a detailed spreadsheet, categorized and labeled, showing every single dollar she had spent using my name. There were receipts from the resort, restaurants, designer stores, and gas stations. Each entry was like another nail in her coffin. Joan did an impressive job organizing it all, making it appear less like a document and more like evidence for a court case. However, what truly stunned her was the last item in the envelope: a compact black USB drive, clearly marked. Inside that USB were the videos. 4 distinct clips, each tagged with timestamps from Malik's security system. There was no room for doubt or argument. The footage spoke for itself. The kiss illuminated by tiki lights, the touch on her thigh at the poolside lounge, the laughter shared as she leaned on Levy during the luau, the way she pressed into his neck as they walked back to the suite at night, it was all evident. However, what wasn't anticipated was Levy's exposure, a fact Brielle hadn't considered. She worked for a firm in San Diego, known for its conservatism and strictness towards office romances and unprofessional conduct. I had never suspected, never thought Malik would trace the footage, never imagined I would go this far. But I did, driven by not love but dignity. 30 minutes after Malik delivered the envelope, I received a call from him. "You won't believe what just transpired," he said, partially amused. "Try me," was my response. She stormed into the lobby in anger, clutching the envelope as if it had bitten her, demanding to speak with management, then demanding to see me, and I obliged. Encountered her by the main entrance, he stated. She began to shout, inquiring if I was associated with you. She expressed it as an invasion of privacy. I remained silent, wisely so. Subsequently, Levy emerged. He seemed disturbed, possibly glimpsed the video. His facial expression conveyed, yes. Not enraged, but petrified. Perhaps he understood the impending chaos ahead. Appropriate. They had a heated exchange in public, as Malik mentioned. She suggested rectification. He countered with legal matters. Then he departed without waiting for her. Unsurprisingly, she was left with an envelope brimming with facts and a name that carried unwanted notoriety. On the same day, I received an email from Tony's secretary, All paperwork had been submitted. The allegations were active. The documents were authenticated and attested. Now, I was on the path to legal separation prior to trial and had a robust case for financial misconduct. Initially, I assisted Brielle with her business launch. However, I had previously removed her from the accounts. At the time we established the LLC, she overlooked crucial details. As a result, I held the majority control with 60% equity, a standard precaution in case she decided to sell prematurely. Never did I imagine I'd need this protection. Yet, now it seemed like an insurance policy. That evening, I sent a notice of removal to her professional email, making it official she was out. No longer the CEO, no longer a partner, and no longer bound by what I had built. The coup de grace came when Malik informed me Levy's company received a forwarded copy of the video. It wasn't from me. Instead, an anonymous sender, someone who labeled the email, assumed Levy's HR department might find it interesting. There was no need to ask who sent it. That was Joan. She always had a knack for timing. By nightfall, the repercussions were underway. I spent the evening engrossed in a book about quiet resilience and reconstruction after a storm. Strange how clear it became now. My phone vibrated again, another text from an unfamiliar number. A plea for conversation, just once. Please. Yet, I remained silent. What else was there to discuss? She had doused our life with fuel and struck a match, assuming I wouldn't notice the smoke trail. However, now she was suffocating in her own deceit. She lied straight to my face, squandered my money, kissed another man under my brother's roof, and expected tears would erase her wrongdoings. This time, they didn't. Stepping onto the balcony, I inhaled the crisp night air, letting it fill my lungs. Revenge was no longer necessary. Victory had already been mine, not through anger, not through brutality, through evidence, through reason, through truth. Let them label me cold. Let them claim I reacted too severely. For in the end, she attempted to erase me from the tale we crafted together. But I held the trigger, and she was merely deleted, brought low and laid bare. Upon my return home, stepping off the plane, I didn't feel triumphant. I wasn't filled with anger. Instead, I felt an unusual calmness. It was as if a hush had fallen over me, settling in my chest like the remnants of dust after a storm. I wasn't returning from battle, but rather from a life-altering realization. The man who departed a week ago wasn't the same one walking through this door now. I took my time as I crossed the threshold. Everything remained unchanged: the shoes by the door, the vase of dried lavender untouched on the dining table. But there was a shift in the atmosphere. It was no longer our home, it was mine, with an undeniable and irreversible claim. Before I even began to unpack, I did what was necessary. Initially, I replaced the locks. A locksmith arrived swiftly. No words were exchanged about why. The action itself spoke volumes. He performed his duties, accepted payment, and nodded before leaving me alone with a new set of keys and a renewed sense of security. Subsequently, I reached out to my bank, concluding the financial divorce. Due to Tony, our shared accounts were temporarily frozen, but I have now made it permanent: no more access or loopholes. Each dollar was accounted for and every transaction traced. This wasn't just for my protection, but ensuring harmony. I then emptied the house, removing only Brielle's belongings: her clothes, shoes, makeup, books, favorite mugs, even her yoga mat. I stored them all in labeled bins in the garage without disposing of anything. A brief note was left on top: collected, categorized, claimed. She could arrange pickup through her attorney. I didn't want her stepping back inside. She had already damaged my trust enough. 3 days later, a courier arrived with documents signed responses from her legal team indicating they weren't actively contesting the divorce, but not yet either. The response was measured, calculated to stall things further, but it was too late for that. The following day, she departed solo. Malik had informed me of her checkout. She's leaving today, first-class ticket, without Levy. I remained silent, no response needed. Yet, I sensed the impending tempest shifting from Hawaii to our place. True to anticipation, by midday, there she stood, at the front door as if she still resided here. sunglasses adorning her face, hair neatly tied in a tight ponytail, and the same duffel bag she'd taken to Hawaii on her shoulder, unchanged. She pressed the bell twice. I observed from the upstairs hallway monitor, delaying my appearance, letting her stand there, feeling the burden of waiting. Then I activated the intercom. Brielle. Confusion flashed across her face. Could you open the door? This property is no longer joint, I stated plainly. Instructions will come through your lawyer. Her expression altered instantly. Wait, what? Are you being serious? I rushed back to rectify this. You returned on your own, I said. That was the first hint. She moved towards the door. Please, just allow me in. We can discuss things. There's nothing to discuss. Come on, you're not sincere. You said you needed space. You took it. In Hawaii. With another man. That was a mistake. No, I interrupted. It was a recurring pattern. I paused. You shattered this, Brielle. Not just once. Not just with one kiss. You made a choice every single day of that trip, and now you're paying the price. She trembled visibly. People make errors. People do, I conceded. But not everyone betrays the one who offered everything. The ensuing quiet was palpable. Then her voice broke. The neighbors are watching. I glanced down from the window. Indeed, old Mrs. Callahan had stopped watering mid-sprinkle. A man running with his dog paused to give a sidelong glance. The mailman even halted momentarily before returning to his vehicle. The shame isn't mine, I asserted. You brought this out in the open when you attempted to conceal it. Her lips quivered. Don't you despise me now? I countered. No, I responded. Hatred consumes too much effort, and I've decided not to offer you any more of it. I terminated the intercom call. She remained there for an additional 30 seconds. Then she approached the curb, where her Uber was still idling, and entered without a backward glance. That night, her parents contacted me. I pondered whether to answer. Yet, my curiosity prevailed. Hello, I said. There was a pause. Hi, her mother replied, her voice tense. We heard about everything. We merely wanted to hear your perspective. You wish for my account? Yes, her father echoed. Brielle is upset. She claims it wasn't as it appeared. It never is, I said. What then? She visited Hawaii with another man. She used my credit card. She reserved the room using my name, but she deceived everyone. If you're searching for someone who needs pity, I am not him. A prolonged quietness prevailed. I apologize, her mother eventually admitted. We were unaware. No, I retorted. You simply didn't inquire. I ended the call. They owed me no explanation, especially when they had chosen to ignore the fracture she caused for 6 years and called it her character. That night, I settled on the back porch with a glass of water, gazing at the sky as it transformed into an orange hue. It was the same sky we used to find amusement in trivial television shows and envision our future under. Alone, I now sat beneath it, and for the first time, it didn't feel empty. It felt deserved. The house no longer held an atmosphere of tension. There were no more walks on eggshells or late-night texts meant to be concealed. No secret phone calls that abruptly ended upon my entry. Only silence. And when it is sincere, silence can be the most resonant form of tranquility. I retraced my steps indoors, passing the line of labeled storage boxes in the garage, then closed the door. I headed home, contemplating that she might solve the issue with her words. However, some bridges are obliterated so thoroughly, leaving no passage to cross again. The decisive confrontation. A month had passed, and I found myself standing outside Courtroom 4B, garbed in a charcoal gray suit, clutching only a leather folder and an unwavering determination. The hallway hummed softly, with footsteps shifting, muted conversations, occasional requests for silence. Yet, all the sounds dulled to a whisper as I waited near the bench for her. Brielle arrived late by 5 minutes. She bore little resemblance to the woman who had graced a Hawaiian shore in a sundress and sunglasses. Instead, she donned a navy skirt suit, her hair gathered tightly into a bun, weighed down by a mixture of regret and defiance. Accompanying her was an impressive-looking lawyer, carrying a designer briefcase and the distinctive smile that courtrooms and high-priced divorce settlements seemed to foster. She avoided eye contact. I didn't mind. My lawyer, Tony, stood beside me with an unspoken assurance, shuffling documents as if he already knew the outcome. When the clerk announced our case, we entered the courtroom and took our seats at opposite tables. The judge was a middle-aged woman with a stern gaze and a reputation for disliking melodrama. Exactly who I'd hoped for. Tony began with a composed summary of the case. Allegations of financial misconduct, breach of marital trust, and fraudulent use of shared assets. He spoke distinctly, supported by dates, receipts, bank statements, and video footage we had submitted as evidence. Brielle's attorney tried to sway the judge with emotional appeals. "Your Honor," he said, "my client admits mistakes were made. However, this was not a deliberate effort to harm her husband. This was the consequence of emotional estrangement in the marriage. My client felt ignored, neglected, and abandoned." Brielle hung her head, struggling under the heavy burden of the accusations. The judge remained impassive. Tony stood up, composing himself. "Your Honor," he began, "being neglected doesn't excuse using one spouse's identity and bank accounts for a trip of adultery. My client has provided evidence of premeditation, such as booking details, duplicate reservations, and video footage showing prolonged romantic involvement with another man. This was not an impulsive decision. It was a pattern." The judge dipped her head, sifting through the papers. Then she addressed Brielle once more. "Mrs. Thorne, are you denying that you traveled to Hawaii with another man using your husband's financial details?" Brielle looked up, barely audible. "No, Your Honor. Are you disputing that the room, meals, and gifts were charged to your husband's account without his knowledge or consent?" Again, no, Your Honor. "Did you assert that while on this journey, you presented yourself as single on the travel documents submitted to the resort and travel agencies?" Your attorney attempted to speak, but the judge signaled for silence. "I'd prefer her response," the judge stated. Brielle hesitated, then nodded. "I can't deny it." The judge acknowledged her with a nod and leaned back in her chair. "Thank you." Tony then handed over the final piece of evidence, your written statement. The judge read it for a moment before setting it aside. Then it was my turn. "Do you wish to speak?" the judge inquired. I stood up, fastened my jacket, and approached the witness stand at a leisurely pace without glancing at Brielle. My gaze remained forward, my tone steady. For 6 years, I was married to a woman I believed I knew. I financially supported her throughout her academic journey, settled her debts, helped establish her business. Together, we constructed our life with utmost care, piece by piece. One day, unexpectedly, she wielded a sledgehammer against it all and smiled as if it were self-care. Some spectators in the courtroom shifted. I continued speaking. She organized a getaway with another individual, deceiving me directly. She utilized our shared resources, my funds, to fund a vacation she labeled as a business excursion. She bought jewelry for someone else while pretending to be another person. She enacted a financial treachery and emotional abandonment, both in one action. I paused briefly, then glanced at her slightly. "You had 6 years to fix things," I murmured softly. "You chose a 5-day vacation over a lifetime." I stepped back, nodded towards the judge, and resumed my seat. The courtroom was silent. The judge readjusted her glasses, scrutinized the pile of evidence one last time, and issued her verdict. "The court finds the proof decisively in favor of the petitioner," she declared firmly. "The divorce is finalized instantaneously. The petitioner will receive the house, bank assets, and business in their entirety, along with the respondent being ordered to repay $7,200 of misused funds as substantiated." Brielle's attorney attempted to negotiate a lesser repayment amount. The judge interjected, stating this wasn't an emotional discussion forum. "The law is decisive. Fraud carries penalties." Brielle slumped, unresponsive. Near the elevator, I lingered not for her, but because Tony went into the hallway to take a call, requiring me to complete a final form. Eventually, Brielle appeared, alone. I cast a glance at her. She seemed weary, not from lack of rest, but from bearing a story that crumbled. "May I express something?" she inquired. "You already did," I replied. In court, she furrowed her brow. I hadn't intended for any of this to transpire. I faced her fully. That's the issue, I said. You never intended anything. You allowed events to unfold unchecked until they became too concealed. I was bewildered, she whispered feebly. No, you were deceitful. I had assumed, perhaps, with passage of time. There is no after Brielle. She glanced down, as if anticipating this. Her voice softened once more. Did you ever truly love me? I remained unfazed. I did. Entirely, and you transformed it into documentation. Her eyes brimmed with tears, but I offered her no solace. That moment had passed. She attempted to speak again, but I moved past her as the elevator chimed. Tony reappeared, delivered the signed document, and we departed. I did not glance back. That night, I uncorked a bottle of wine and stood on my balcony once more. The wind had intensified. The atmosphere had altered. Somewhere along the road, Brielle would recount her account of the tale, perhaps to acquaintances, maybe to someone else, even possibly to herself. Yet, I no longer cared. In the courtroom, I carried the truth, evidence, and a fresh start. I left with liberation instead. There were no theatrics, no tumultuous departures, only the tranquil echo of resolution, and the consciousness that I reconstructed what she aimed to destroy, keeping my honor unscathed. My life's narrative was penned. It's amusing how serenity doesn't make a spectacle. It doesn't arrive with pomp or declare itself like a grand arrival. It slips in subtly, gently, like a whisper through an open window, reminding you that the tempest has passed. That's how I felt upon waking in my new apartment for the first time. The sunlight streamed through the blinds, painting golden lines on the wooden floor. My dog, yes, he was mine at last, curled up at the foot of the bed, sleeping softly. He was a rescue, a stubborn little mutt named Milo who enjoyed claiming the blankets and barking at his reflection in the mirror. His presence transformed the room into a lived-in reality rather than an existence. It was more than surviving. It was recuperating. The flat wasn't expansive. It comprised one bedroom, one office, and an open kitchen. Yet every object in it held significance. Framed photos adorned the shelf. Friends, travels, family, all absent wedding pictures, no half-hearted smiles, just genuine moments untainted by pretense. Roughly a month post the court verdict, I legally vacated the house Brielle and I once shared. I didn't strive to retain it, despite the court granting it to me. I didn't wish to dwell in a shrine of shattered memories. I sold it. A favorable deal came through. Young newlyweds, eager to embark on their new life, took possession. I handed them the keys. They filled the space with optimism instead of nostalgia. Brielle acquiesced to the sale without protest. She scarcely uttered a word post the decision. As for me, I resumed living. I cycled again on Sundays, as I had before I met her. Alone, I journeyed along river paths without aim or time constraint, discovering fresh coffee spots, interacting with nearby residents, attending culinary classes on Thursdays due to no longer considering another's tastes a novelty after years. I avoided her social media, skipped past tagged photos, seeking solace from knowing who she was associating with or concocting tales for the world. That storyline had concluded. Rereading it wouldn't alter its denouement. My conversation with Malik has increased recently. Our relationship deepened more during that incident than all the birthday celebrations and festive occasions combined. We now share laughter over past hurts, things once painful. Recall his anecdote about her expression upon receiving the letter, a look of horror as if presented a live grenade. He dropped by some weeks later. We dined together, lounged on a rooftop eatery, and conversed freely. There was no strain, no need for hastened updates. Two brothers who had gone through a difficult experience emerged stronger. He took a sip from his beer and said, "You've changed." "For better or worse?" he queried. "Better," was the response. "You seem lighter, as if you can finally breathe." I nodded in agreement. "It feels that way too." Then there was Tony. What had started as a professional relationship evolved into something unexpected. We continued to communicate after the case concluded, initially about paperwork and then about life. One night we met at a serene downtown bar. She appeared different outside of court, more laid back and welcoming. Her sharpness remained, but it was tempered by genuine interest. She inquired about my well-being, not out of courtesy, but as if she genuinely cared. "I'm learning to be self-centered again," I confessed. She smiled. "That's good. You deserve it." By the end of the evening, I recognized that I hadn't thought about Brielle at all, neither her lies, nor the videos, nor the voice that once persuaded me she wouldn't harm me. Simply two of us sharing a bottle of wine and a genuine laugh without any falsehoods. It didn't suddenly transform into something else. I didn't rush into it as a rebound or push myself towards romance. Instead, I allowed it to grow at a pace that mirrored healing, gradual, steady, and considerate. Perhaps it might evolve into something greater. Perhaps not. For the first time, I found peace in the unpredictability. On a Saturday morning, I revisited the spot where I used to sit with Brielle during our good times, overlooking the city skyline, hidden behind a peaceful park. Alone on the bench, I observed the wind scattering leaves along the path. I reflected on everything she took away from me and what I reclaimed. She took my trust. I regained it through boundaries. She drained my finances. I restored them with purpose. She undermined my dignity. I countered her betrayal with composure, planning, and quietude. People often claim that revenge is best served cold. However, I disagree. The most effective retaliation lies in living a life so whole, so unfalteringly tranquil, that the one who sought to harm you finds themselves haunted by their trivial impact in the grand scheme of things. Weeks after the court ruling, Brielle contacted me. I chose not to respond. In her message on Never Leave, she said, "You were part of my good karma streak," she chuckled. "Helping you gave me purpose once more." "You rescued me," I retorted. "No," she corrected. "You rescued yourself. I merely provided the flashlight." This thought lingered long after our call ended. As she suggested, I could have opted for vengeance, obliterating all in my wake to reclaim a sense of power. Instead, I chose wisdom. I constructed spreadsheets, not quarrels. I selected lawsuits, not disorder. I preserved my dignity when I had every reason to unravel. Consequently, I didn't merely endure the treachery. I transformed myself through it. Now, when they ask about our past, I don't recount the entire tale. She didn't air her grievances, financial issues, or vacation snaps. Instead, she simply states this. She departed believing she could find something superior. I remained, discovering tranquility, and that suffices because I don't owe the world a rationale for my recovery process. I only owe myself the authenticity of what I experienced and the pride of how I conquered it. Thus, here I am, at 39, divorced, rebuilding, and happier than ever in that marriage. Some individuals seek beaches while destroying connections. As for me, I've learned to construct on solid foundations. No more assumed confidence. No more compulsory cheerfulness. No more sham eternity. Only myself, my dog, a cityscape vista, and the peaceful assurance that I will no longer let someone dictate my narrative again. Not even for paradise. I love you, and 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 I love you.